What's up, guys? It is Modern Craftsman Monday. This week, it's just the three amigos. We're chatting about what's going on in our projects as of recently. Also talk about a little bit about a possible development opportunity on my end. And Johnny digs in and gives me some of his secrets. And at the very end, we share a 3-star review. Not our best look on the review page, but
it was a great one.
I don't hate it.
Take a listen, guys. You were on vacation, and how every time you go on vacation, you think, and you went into deep thought about how you not reconsider things, but
no, I mean you always do. I mean you think about your goals, you know. I mean everyone should, especially when I'm driving 3 hours one direction. I'm like, all right.
Do you feel as though?
I think the problem with vacation is that you have downtime and you have enough time to actually think about things aside from work.
True.
You know,
yep.
I think day to day, it's just so crazy that you're basically keeping your head above water that once you get any sort of downtime, all those thoughts and anxieties for me creep in, and then I start reevaluating my entire life and what the heck I'm doing.
You know what's funny is I was walking a job today. It's a new job we have, and I met the builder of the place that it's actually just finished. Now I'm going to go in and renovate the whole thing. And his plumber's there. We're all just kind of talking and getting to know each other, blah, blah. And the other guy's like, yeah, you know, I had a nightmare about this place because he had to get some stuff done. I'm like, let me guess, 3 a.m. And all three of us looked at each other and was like, 3 a.m. is the time that, like, you have a deep sleep, but you wake up in, like, a cold sweat. And we're literally all three of us. I never met these guys before.
Yeah.
Didn't even know their names. And all three of us are kind of gelling about this whole, like, yeah, you can go to bed, no problem. But 3 a.m., something about it, that time when you wake up and go, I need to get this, and this done.
I can attest to that.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like the same time every.
So you said this guy just finished building this place and you're renovating it?
Yeah.
Why?
I no knock on the guy's work. I mean, it was a spec that in a great area, and you can only do so much with a spec, but it needs personality. So when I go in there and do a lot with it, you know, kick it up a few notches.
See, that
seems like a waste of money.
And that's, I mean, wow. There's the
people are gonna love me on this podcast. Thanks for pointing that out.
No, but that's a great, you know, dovetail into what you said earlier is that people outside that listen to this podcast, that comment on the podcast, think that everything is huge, like meaning like the profit, right? Like because we're doing better big projects or elaborate projects that the profits are higher.
Yeah, the scale's bigger.
Which it couldn't be further from the truth. You know, I had a conversation with a builder in Boston that is doing what our team wants to be doing, these extensive brownstone renovations. And we started chatting, and he had asked why, and I said it's just that's the, and he stopped me, and I'm like, he said, if it's because of the money, I'm going to tell you right now, stick to the smaller stuff. Yeah, because it's never like the bigger the scale, the bigger the headaches, and I promise you that you will make less money.
I've definitely found that we've done some smaller stuff, and we definitely make a better margin on smaller stuff, like the Ben and Jerry's stuff, I didn't even put it on social. We did a full master bath renovation and all that stuff, and we definitely make better margins on that. But
it's just not your personality, right? That's like
to me it's a lot more work because we're doing the same as we do in a big home, but we're just consolidating it to a smaller time frame in a smaller space. So
you still have all the same moving parts and all the coordination, the scheduling, and the design and everything else. It's just that it's one room or a small room, so it's tough.
I mean, it's just I always want to be super aggressive at it. It's just you can't, like 12,000 square foot house, you can put in everybody without anyone saying, hey, blah, blah. But like when it's a master bathroom, it's like, all right, we have to be strategic about who we're placing what and where. And if you want to go do punch, you got to, schedule that person to do it. But I mean, I loved it. I mean, I will only do small stuff. We just had a meeting for another small one. Again, to put that in perspective, it's like, that master bath was a totally fine bathroom, to be honest with you, Tyler. It's just it was kind of dated, meaning platform, tub, shower and shower was totally dark, and we ended up switching that to the toilet room and made the shower inside the space and updated all the cabinetry. And that was like, I don't know, $133,000 for that, 8 weeks worth of work. And the designer, architect on that one basically had everything picked beforehand. So before we even started the demo, everything was delivered to the garage. Tile, bath accessories, everything. We had ordered cabinetry ahead of time. They had approved.
Why didn't you share it?
I just didn't have time.
Yeah.
I want to get in there and get final photos of it. I just haven't had a minute to do it, and it's on my list. It's like everything. We don't always get the stuff that we always, just because we do a podcast doesn't mean that we're perfect.
Right. I mean, and to attribute to, your farmhouse and the brownstone build, that's where that conversation started, is that, you're doing those basically to build equity. Yeah.
And what we mean by that is that we sign those. I mean, they're good sized projects. They're 2 years old, 2-year duration projects, but those are done on handshakes the day we had no work.
So your margins are tight.
No, I mean, it's more, they're not tight. It's just, they're not, after we've done the math and we've had employees and we have health insurance and we have trucks and we have all that, you have to, like for instance, the Ben & Jerry's. Let's break it down to something smaller. The Ben & Jerry's, I quoted that after we did Titletown Barbershop. That was the only referral I got, and I priced it out then. And then it went totally, guy ghosted me. And I was like, all right, whatever. Things move on. And it was honestly a tough situation where it was like, hey, we're going to close at night, and you do the renovation at night, and then we'll reopen during the day. And I was like, dude, how is that going to work? Just cleanliness-wise. I was like, that just didn't, so I wasn't totally pursuing it either. Like, here's a secret. Most things that come up with a client that are a poor idea, I will let them stew for a little bit longer. Like, I'm not going to jump on it right away. Like, I'm going to be like, you know what, let's just sit. And so same thing. I didn't really pursue that, but then we quoted it. I reached out to the guy again, like before winter started. I was like, hey, just want to be clear. Like, is this coming online? Because I don't want winter to roll around and you go, hey, I want to do this as a shotgun start. I want to kind of be preemptive. And he's like, you know what, you're right. I want to do this one and the other one. And we priced out both of them. And one, I kept the management and everything where it was, where I priced it the year before, just because I didn't want to be, poaching it. I just want to have good faith that, hey, I'll keep my word. But the second one, the management and everything went up to what it should have been. A month-long project, blah, blah. And he had asked me, put both quotes together. He's like, why is this one more money? I'm like, I'm honoring the price I gave you the first time around. This one is what it should be. So that's just me being, kind of a man of my word.
Sure.
Along the way. And so same thing. It's like those two projects we started 2 years ago, those should have been kicked up as we kicked up and got employees and all that stuff. But I'm not going to renegotiate those. And I'm sure people can jump on the podcast and say, I would renegotiate, but
I mean, like the expiration date of a proposal or something like that.
I mean, but we're actively doing it.
Right.
It's not like you get a quote on decking and it's like, oh, it's this much and it's good for 30 days.
Yeah.
This is management. And what we did, so to kind of speak to it a little bit more, but if like Ben and Trevor are on that job now, then they'll both bill for their time. So we're not like giving stuff away for free, but it's like Ben's.
So you're billing management hours on those jobs.
Correct. But then like the OMP part where you mark up everything, that's stuck at the original quote that we gave them. So
John, on a bathroom project like that for you guys, what does that project look like? Who's going in? Do you have a demolition crew? Do you have carpenters demolishing?
Yeah. So like honestly, it's the same as building a house. It's just broken down. So demo crew goes in. We supply the dumpster. We supply protection. We do all the protection to get to that point of that point of contact.
You're doing the protection. You're in house.
Yeah, just us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we could have you've had demo guys do the protection. It just
once.
I'm just going back. We haven't talked.
With all
about
due respect.
Yeah.
Once.
Yeah. It just I feel like you should have your hand on that, because putting something down and knowing protection's down, not on like gravel or someone didn't sweep it first. That's a problem that could be rubbed in for the next 3 months or 8 weeks, whatever you want to call it.
So you're going to have all your different subs come through on that. So when you have $135,000 bathroom, what do you think that when you say you're making decent money on that and your profit margin is a little bit better on that, what do you think that looks like for you on a project of that scale as far as what you're making?
You know what's funny is I don't even know if it's better or worse than my big ones. I guess I can just see it quicker. Like I'm like, oh well, this is what I can do. I can see that it's only 8 weeks. I'm like, I'm really not pouring a ton into that.
Right.
It's not a huge amount of resources for us. So I guess I'm just seeing it quicker.
But is someone there daily?
Yeah, one of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of us is popping in or out, just like all the other jobs.
Right.
And the reason why we took it on is because it was like 2 blocks away from our other projects.
Right. So it made sense.
So it was.
So I personally feel like a job that scale would be harder for you guys subbing all of that because it's still the same amount of moving parts. It just happens quicker, and to stay ahead of it would be more difficult. You don't have 4 weeks worth of framing.
Yeah.
You have a few days worth of framing.
There's no cushion. There's no buffer for you to kind of, as it closes out, you can then get people tied in. Like you literally have to do like the Ben and Jerry's and those smaller ones. You got to tee up everyone ahead of time, and then you're basically reining them in. Like I say it to John, my guy, all the time. I don't see Benny a ton, but it's like you don't call somebody on a Friday for someone that week. And John, he listens to this, but he got caught up in this thing where, hey, I'm gonna wait until I'm 100% confident on the time frame, and then call that guy. I'm like, no, guy, girl. I go, you gotta set that up and then back into it. Meaning, if you know you're gonna start demo that day on a Monday, you gotta call plumbing, electrical, HVAC, and tell them like 2 weeks before that the 10th we're gonna need you.
Yeah.
And then you can pull them, slide them forward or back as needed, but waiting until you're confident. And it's weird. You are playing it kind of off the cuff a little bit, that it's really organic, and that's going to freak a lot of people out listening to this that are more like dialed in. And I am dialed in when it comes to my notes.
No, but I would agree with you. And that's something that I think, outside looking in with Nick and Mike, a lot of times I'm seeing the wait for that 100% confidence. Where in certain circumstances it might make sense, but I can understand it. You got to get in the radar, like get them, the floor guy on the radar. Where it's like, and Will listens, but it's like, Will, like we got this project, we're projecting 3 weeks from today, we're gonna be ready.
But he's also really good about like pinging you and going, hey, are you ready?
Oh yeah.
Are you close to being ready?
Sure you're ready?
I feel like you're ready, and you haven't called him yet.
But at least like having that rotation, and then the following week it's like, yeah, we're probably still 3 weeks out. But just having that conversation over and over and over, where it is live, but at least it's on their radar and it's continuing. Where
it's that open line of communication.
Right.
Just even pinging them, like I'll text people and I'll call people originally to say, hey, send you some prints, give them a look. If you need to go over it, here's the time. And then going forward, it'll be a text message, like the closeout of each week, Thursday or Friday, being like, hey, we're still on track for this. Nothing's changing. You still good. And then either transfer over, like what we try and do, John and I, is we divide and conquer. We'll hit the site and go, hey, who do you want to handle? I'll handle everybody else. Mm-hmm. Like right now, it's like we're doing some landscape stuff at the farmhouse building. I'm like, I'll take concrete. I'll do this, that. You take countertops, templating, designer for sink faucets and all that. And then we kind of go at it. So it's really no one, like we talk about roles and responsibilities. I would have to really hesitate on even writing them up because it's a team. It's not like this hierarchy. And I guess I thought about that with maybe it was the last podcast. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I missed a couple, but the issue is like you pulled a lot off of site.
Yeah.
And I have a really hard time doing that. I have to it's not a control issue. I talked to this with my designer today, Nikki from Acquire, and it's like, no, like it's being that boutique. Like hers is Acquire, like boutique Boston or whatever. Mm-hmm. And I totally agree with that. It's like you have to still be the Tyler mentality, even though you don't have the bags on. And I just buzz every day.
Yeah. I mean, I'm doing it once a week, which, is a far cry from what I was doing it 6 months ago.
But that, like, you've let the leash way out.
Yeah.
How does it feel?
Some days really good. Some days not. I wouldn't say bad, but some days nerve-wracking.
Like, do you feel, I guess when you say really good.
Really good, because when I do show up that like in the week, I'm just like, all right, damn.
Meets expectations and all that. But do you ever feel like, this is me being weird, is that every time things are going good, I am now in search of what is falling
I'm
apart.
not searching.
Because I feel like no one really has the bandwidth. Anybody, plumbers, electricians, our guys, me, that when something's going good, that means I gotta look behind me. Like something I'm not focusing on is falling apart.
And you know what? And my guys will attribute to this is that in that circumstance, I usually then try to help by like, I'll reach out to the architect and get that answer right now. Where it's like all I'm doing is hurting their process. I've let that use the word leash out, right? And now I'm coming, and then I'm pulling it back in, where it's like I can't do that because then there's this constant distrust between the two of us, where it's like, this is Mike's job, this is Nick's job, it's his responsibility. I'll check in. When I see communication go through email and maybe I don't see a reply, or an architect, we had not an issue with an architect. Architect reached out and had different thoughts on the way we framed something, or would have done it a different way, and we had thought we did it the way that was intended. It almost cost us 2 weeks. We worked through it. It was fine, but it was because I butt my head into it. Where it was like, I'll get yeah, that makes sense. Let's do that. Where it's like, this is Mike's job. Why am I interfering at this point? And my focus is now, building the relationships and growing and solely focused on the company and checking in to make sure that our process sticks with what we are, selling, number one, but also what, ultimately why our current clients hired us, because of the vision that we all had prior to it. And me being on site more. Last year I had one job where the client was very open about the fact that she was, displeased with the fact that I wasn't on site as much as she thought I would be. Mm-hmm. And that's why she hired me and hired us. At the end of the day, the job came out great. We had our issues. We were over our bandwidth, and we were, lacking with the attention on that project. But at the end of the day, it came out okay. Was it a successful job? No. I wouldn't consider that.
And do you think that she thought she hired Nick, or do you think that she hired NS Builders? And have you changed that at your pre-con and your quote meeting, how that's described, meaning you're hiring the team?
Yeah, and that client was right in the beginning of that
transition. Yeah.
So like I said, at the end of the day, she's uber happy. She, will continue to use us. We're still there now, a year and months later, we're still working on projects, and I think we'll have a long relationship with her. But the expectation was very different in the beginning, where it was like, this is, the company is about to change.
Yeah.
And at the time we were taking on one of the biggest projects that we've done to date, and trying to do multiple jobs at once, where it's like, now we're focusing on, and this is why I was interested in your process with the small jobs, is we are trying to focus on more full-scale renovations, bigger renovations, and getting into new construction. And, not necessarily shunning away from doing small projects, but being really selective with them. And by, like, me saying that, one of the things I'm doing a lot more now is when I'm interested in a project and it doesn't fit, I keep reminding myself, our goal is to do full-scale renovation and new construction. So when that doesn't fit, I look at the job, and if I'm interested in it, then I send it to my team, and I get their feedback on it. If 2 out of 3 of them come back and say, dude, it's a great job, but it doesn't really fit what we're trying to do, and we have a lot going on, I think this would be a bad thing for us to try to take on right now. I'll listen to them, and I'll explain that it's just not a good fit for us.
Nick's gonna grab the food. It's tough.
I was just curious. I was curious as to what projects look like. Those smaller scale projects look like for you, just with the pace that they have to move. It would be. I don't sub out a lot of work, and it's difficult to keep on top of things and keep it moving as is with everything in house. And subbing out a job, $133,000 bathroom for me, most of that would be, not most of that, but a lot of that would be going in my pocket, not to subs.
Yeah.
So I have an ability, even so the job that I'm doing now, we're gutting a bathroom, expanding that by about a foot, adding another bathroom, and then renovating their master. We have to open up the first floor and then down into the basement because I want to get rid of all the cast because the original house only had one bathroom, so all the water lines are galvanized water lines that when somebody kind of half-assed the bathroom, they just tied in with copper into the galvanized, and then it's all the old lead drains that somebody put fittings on and took to ABS or PVC, kind of where they had access. The drum trap still in there, the cast iron stack still in there, so I want to get rid of all that stuff. But a job like that, even with all our setup and everything, moving the HVAC, a job like that for me is still, I think this one all said and done will be like $165,000, which for me to take 3 months there, even if I'm 2 weeks later than that or whatever, most of that is going into my pocket. So I don't need other things to be going on while this job is going on, where I feel like, you would obviously need more than that to stay busy and to offset your costs.
No, you're right. But going backwards is, did I need to take that project on?
Well, I was going to ask you that. Did it hinder something bigger or more important?
No, it didn't. It didn't stretch our bandwidth for subs and all that stuff. And I thought about that going into it, but it was really just a selfish reason that these people had contacted me and you.
Yeah.
And it was more the fact that I kind of looked at a couple other houses with them, and I didn't want them to be stuck with somebody beyond you or me.
And that's what I struggle with, is the fact that, I looked at a great project in Winchester last week, and they bought this house, and I think the original house was over 200 years old. And then they had added on like 5 different additions, and young couple.
Sounds like a vintage project.
Dude, you can pass it along. But we walked the job, and I was like, I want to talk about your big picture job, like the big picture here. What is like the ultimate goal? Are you going to be here forever? Yes, this is forever home. We bought it because we love the old home. We want to bring back the home, and we started walking, and then we start talking about the immediate needs and what they wanted to do right away. And, we then followed up with like an email later basically explaining that they're going to handle the floors getting refinished, and they're going to hire a painter. They just need an electrician and someone to do a bathroom renovation. And I'm like,
so how'd you get in there?
How did I get in there?
That doesn't sound like a fit for you.
It didn't. And it was because of the bigger picture. Because the big picture was restoring the original house, rebuilding the addition, building this glass addition off the back with some modern interpretation. But it was, as that conversation unfolded and when I was on site with them, it became this kind of 5+ year goal.
But take me back to the email.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how'd you get referred to that project?
Through an architect who that I'm looking at another project for down the street.
Just feeding you leads.
Yeah, it was. I actually didn't find that out until I met with them in person. So I'll walk you through the scenario. So I got an email lead, and I read it, and I read the description of the scope. My immediate thought was, this doesn't seem like the right fit. And then they always fill out a budget. Excuse me. And
dramatic pause.
Burp. To be exact. They filled out the budget. The budget didn't really fit the scope for what we would need to do. So there's a lot of, not red flags, but kind of like cautionary flags.
And
right?
Winchester's not near any of your stuff, right?
It isn't. But oddly enough, we got 3 different leads in Winchester in the same week. 2 of them being finding out that they were the same architect. The third is actually one that we have a contract for. So I'm reading it. I'm like, I just don't know if it's the right fit. But I look up the address. I'm like, oh, this is cool. It's in a 200-year-old house. They go on to explain that they have bigger picture, bigger plan with this, that they want to restore the old house. And I'm like, you know what? This, I have some interest in it. So I'll meet with them. Schedule the meeting, walk the site. I really like them, and this is going back to my whole point here is I really like them. I liked where their head was at. I understood what they were trying to accomplish here, and I genuinely wanted to leave there saying, you know what, I can send my electrician in here. We can bang out the electrical, be a rock star for them, do the bathroom, and then in 5 years when they do this, restoration of their existing house, we'll get that job. But it didn't. It doesn't make sense. It's, I can't manage it. I can't, there's no reason for me to, try to manage my electricians doing, basically piecework in the sense of replacing old wiring. And then to try to get to our subs are in the area, but to then get management on a small bathroom for, the long-term goal. I was just honest. I reached out. I said, listen, I really wish I could be more of a help. Congratulations on the new house. Really great place. This just isn't the right fit for us. We're not structured to be able to take on this small of a project. And I can't remember if it was this one or another one I had wrote a very similar email to. They said, totally understood. Appreciate your time. We'll keep you in mind for the bigger project. So whether or not that, is fulfilled later on, at least.
No, they're definitely using someone else.
But
they're using John.
but
John's got his electrician there right now pulling the old knob in too.
But to John's point, it's like John took on that bathroom because he didn't want them to get stuck with someone other than me or John.
I would never do that.
But it is. It's this emotional attachment where now that I'm asking, we did a condo in a building in Watertown. And they called us. They're like, hey, we really want you to renovate the pool. We want all this commercial work. And I'm like, dude, slam dunk. We can make a good number on this. They're ready to go. They'll sign. I sent it out to my team, and they're like, dude, this just isn't. We're busy. We have awesome work on the table. Like, this isn't. Why would we? Not to be negative, but why would we utilize what we're doing for something that really doesn't fit us? And I'm like, fair enough. I just needed you to tell me that, and agree, and because I'm sitting here from an emotional side where it's like, I love the building manager. I want to help him out. We can absolutely do it. But at the end of the day, it's not the right fit for us.
Yeah, I'm having the same conversation with Benny. Is that like our Cambridge, and we have some projects coming online in Somerville that are these modern projects. And I said to him on the phone, I was like, this is one of my epiphanies when driving 3 hours coming home. And I'm like, does our sign really make sense in front of these buildings? Like that, it's cool. I love the concept, love the design, but does our brand and our company make sense in this project? And I'm like, the more we build that relationship bigger, is it where we want to be there long term? Like everything we do wants to be a long term relationship. Like if this is a developer that's going to do more of these, which we have a couple more lined up and working on, that it's like we could be in bed for the next 10 years on these projects. So I'm like, do we then break off a division and put a PM crew, meaning PM, APM, and super, that run this kind of niche?
You can have the 200-year-old house. I'll take the modern one.
Right? We got two more that are like 5 units,
but that
retail below, super modern, fun design. But I said to Benny, I'm like, I don't want you to get stuck in you look back in 5 years and go, what have I been building?
Right.
Like I've been doing my job and I've had blinders on, but what am I leaving behind?
I feel like it's the conversation we had about the change to my marketing, where it's, if you go on social media or anything that we post that is visual, where it's so micro detailed, it's cabinetry. And people are confusing us with someone that just builds cabinets, or we're just carpenters, where we're looking, that's the smaller projects were great to us. They always have been, and they continue to be. But our goal as a team, as a company, is to build homes and renovate whole homes. But we're not marketing that, and it's the same thing from your side. If you start doing all modern homes, and that's not what you guys set out to do. It's just interesting, and I think a lot of people can relate to the fact that they want to say no, but they also want to help.
Yeah, I mean, it's same thing. Is that like the stuff we're doing in Cambridge and stuff? Is that they came to us because they couldn't find anybody else that really cared and was passionate about it. So it makes sense. And vintage doesn't mean we have to work on old stuff. It's like people call me like, will you do small stuff? I'm like, as long as it's cool. Right. Like, and that's the other flip side. It's like, all right, then what is it that you want, dude? Like, that's what I say to myself when I'm driving. I'm like, well, is that really what we want? So I'll call Benny and go, hey, I don't go as deep as involving the other guys. It's more like, I think there's part of it where if you're going to lead, that you want to have some direction already and that they can manipulate that direction. But there's a reason why a lot of people are employees and they want to have someone lead for them and direct them where they want to go and not have that full burden all the time where it's like, let me just, like Benny the other day was like, I could go work for somebody and have less of the burden of what I have. I'm like, yeah, we all could. We absolutely could. Right. It's just, what do you want out of this?
Yeah, I think it's just what you want, because any day would be easier to go work for someone, and if you look at the hours and figure out what you're actually making per hour, it's probably not better than going to work for someone at all.
I mean, straight up.
At the end of the day, it ends up being what's important to you, what drives you, what makes you get up in the morning, and what you want out of life. I think it's a personality type. I think that a lot of it is just what makes you tick. I don't think it's not necessarily you can make money and you can make good money and there's tax incentives and benefits and all of that, but if you look at the hours that you have to put into it, you'd make more money just going to work for someone.
Sure.
I mean, to be honest, like I did that video 2 years ago with Puff about what I walked away from. I'm not making that salary today that I made there, but do I have a way better environment to work in? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'll take, like I said that before I left when I worked for BGB and I was making like a fraction of what I was making at my last company. I would have taken that environment and the less pay all day. But I mean, here's the thing: is there's so many people out there that will have a day job. What was the quote that I was told the other day? Was that, if you make more money just to make money, it will open up other passions that you can then go do. Mm-hmm. Meaning, hey, maybe I'll take an easier job, make more money, but then I'll be home more to do stuff on the side, have a hobby that now we don't have time for.
Right.
And I get there's all that's
but
totally
I think
valid.
I'm not saying I think in a big way we do this because we love this, and this is a hobby, in a big way a hobby for us.
But everyone else is screaming in their car going, but we should be able to. Ben's probably going, you should be able to make whatever you want.
Right.
And I agree. It just, to me, it's like we have to take a little bit of time to get there. Like we're getting into a market, and our markets are changing for us, which is in our benefit. And we're only 4 people right now. Mm-hmm. And we're only going to be able to take on so much and be able to change our profit margins so much as these projects go through.
I want to go back to like you and Benny in that environment because you guys are partners, right? Yep. And in a big way, you guys have kind of divided and conquered. And, I think that probably attributes to a little bit to the fact that, Benny's getting some of these modern builds. And again, to your point, it's not that you have to work on old houses, but you guys were building a product together as a team at your last company that you wanted to then capitalize on and continue to build for clients that were looking for that particular product, where that bathroom or some of these smaller projects or these modern projects, they're not a far cry, but they're a little bit they're different than the product that you guys set out. Agreed. And I think that's for me, that's what I keep asking, is making sure that I basically have asked people to hold me accountable for when we're looking at a project that doesn't fit our ultimate goal. It's like if you keep saying yes to all these, if you keep saying yes to all these projects that don't fit the mold, but let's just take it on because we could use the work or because
I don't think we ever need to say we need the work. Like, because
I would disagree with that.
Like, when have you said that? Like, that seems like it's like.
I would say I say it a lot.
I just want to date somebody because I want to be in a relationship.
I bet my wife would say I've said that.
But you know what I'm saying? Like it's, and again,
I'm gonna be totally candid. There's absolutely times where I've taken, even recently I've taken on projects that because I believe that we need the work, and but the reality is it's usually not the case. It's usually I'm over analyzing something. I take on a project, and then the next day it's like, hey, so we're ready to rock and roll with this one.
Do you think it's a comfort thing for you? I feel like it's comfort for me that like there'll be certain times where I'll be driving home, or maybe it's at 3 a.m. that we talked about, that I'll be like, all right, what do I have teed up for work? Or I'll have this like,
I go through that
this shock where I'm like, do I have enough work? Do I have?
Yeah.
And then I'll be like, you know what, dude, you got this, and I have to run it in my head, all the stuff you have signed up.
I literally sit down and write everything out.
Really?
And I hired this guy Mike. He's like acting CFO.
Shout out to Mike.
So
the suit.
He is. Every Monday, he runs through my list that I give him the week prior.
Has that stopped the impulsive like thought of work?
It's relatively new, but it's helped.
Okay, I'm not putting him on the spot.
We've only been doing it for 2 weeks. Okay. That particular like lead generation, like connect, and basically holding me accountable for like, hey, these are the projects you told me about. What's going on with them?
I guess what I.
So you're saying that you keep a running list of all the work that you have lined up?
Any lead that comes in, making sure that I'm tracking that. And I'm using the Builder Trend software, but I'm also doing this. That's a big reason, to your point, like why I got the whiteboards. Because when Graham at Big Dog, I went into his office a couple weeks ago. He's got one whiteboard dedicated to leads and where they are in progress. And
remember Sweener?
Yeah.
Jeff Sweener
exactly.
had a massive board of,
and that's all and that was really what stemmed a lot of the rest of this office renovation that we're in. But it was because I just want something where I can look up and settle my nerves instead of being like, I don't know if we have enough work, and then we do out a rough schedule or a rough revenue. It's like, okay, no, we have too much work. Which ones are we going to say no to? And and realizing, kind of having this checklist of, here's this project. What's the likelihood of getting it? Is it in line with what you're tracking to build, or is it not? And then seeing all that helps the decision process. You asked about comfort. It's way more comfortable to say no to a project like that one in Winchester than for me to have said yes, and then been in this position where now I can't take on another project that I probably want, and I got to figure out how I'm going to staff this and do it effectively so I get that job in 5 years, because we did such a great job when everything else is working against me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
so I'm like,
I think that's a great, like, you asked a great question. Is do you ever feel like you're in a position where you're like thinking, do I have enough work? Do I not? What's going on? What do I have coming in the pipeline?
I feel like that's every day.
I said every week, but it's probably more than that.
I mean, I feel like it's like right now we've been working with this project where we're trying to get this big build. Like we did a whole compound design, and then they decided to buy a different property. Mm-hmm. So it's more like it's funny, like I was bitter about that. Like we put all this effort and time into this part, and you almost fall in love with that type of a project. Once it goes from this infancy stage, now you want to see it develop.
Right.
And then it changes gears, and you're like, I remember I got the call, and they're like, "Oh, we bought this property, blah blah," and I was like, "Okay, awesome." And I was like, I literally left my house. It was on a weekend, and I was like, "It's choking me up now." And I was just like, I need to get air. Like, just I need to not say anything.
That's why you need the F-100 back on the road.
I know. And I need to do nothing.
Yeah.
Like nothing. Not talk to my kids. Mm-hmm. Not be near a TV. I just need to rack my brain, work it all out, and by like half hour later, I think I went and probably got a cookie at Panera, and I came back and I was like, dude, this is gonna be a great project.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, it's not like a money thing.
Right.
It's more, like I said to them,
it never is.
It never is.
But it's the emotional attachment that you had already poured into that. You felt, like you said, you fell in love with this development opportunity.
Yeah. It was, and it may still happen. It's a great use of that property, but more importantly, it fit that client perfectly.
Right.
And if their motives or their wants change, then I need to be able to change with that and still make their dream come true for their family. And that's what we're doing. So it's like, all right, cool. But like, I remember recently we did the first Ben & Jerry's, and I was sitting there with the owner, manager, and something else. And I think we were, right before we started, we were actually taking all of the equipment out of the shop and putting it in the storage unit. So all his employees were there, and they were asking. Something came up like, why would you do the barbershop? And I was like, because I've seen enough commercial work that I'm like, the respect isn't. And no shots at anybody listening, but the commercial aspect that I've seen,
the level of expectation is lower.
The execution.
Sure.
Like when I took
it's also, but the execution, I think, is driven by the expectation.
I guess people just don't know, and it's more obvious where, like, the barbershop, when I was taking stuff apart for that, it was like no PL, no blockers, just finished nails shot in 2 different directions to hold it against the sheetrock. And
dude, that's all you need.
Yeah, I mean, it's what I see in fine home building.
Client turnover, man.
It's job security.
It just makes it easy on them. Once the tenants switch, it's easier to fit it out.
I was just really disappointed with what I saw, and then even like the union electricians and stuff like that, they were getting a crazy rate, and I wasn't seeing the crazy skill that came along with that price point. So the the manager was asking me, he's like, why are you getting into this stuff? I'm like, it has nothing to do with doing the work, nothing to do with the money that comes along with it, or giving work to guys that need it. None of that's true, because all these guys are slammed to do this. It's more the fact that someone from the public can walk this project, where you could probably walk one of my houses, but a lot of people that know us, like people that are friends with me from high school, they can't walk one of my builds. Today, they can pop into Ben & Jerry's and go, I get it. I see it. And they can go to a different Ben & Jerry's and go, which I've done, and go, not even close.
Yeah.
Like, to bring the level of craftsmanship and quality, again, that was a 13-day build, but still, it's, and again, I'm biased, but I think it doesn't hold a candle to what someone would do in a 3-month reno in that commercial environment.
Do you think, all right, so with that being said, passion aside, do you think that you made as much money as the other guy that would have done it?
Oh, I don't know, honestly. I can't answer that.
This is where I'm at, right? So, I live in Southie, and there's a ton of development, and all around South Boston. They're ripping things down, putting things up, and we walk them. We go to the open house, new condo, and it's just like I don't say anything. My wife, she's like, "This is crap." There's a single family house that someone renovated down the street from me.
Yeah, a civilian can see it.
It's on the market. It's the same style house as mine. Absolutely. What?
I'm sorry, John just said civilian as if
Meg's a civilian.
You're in construction or you're a civilian.
Seriously, yeah.
We want to know how many civilians listen to this.
Military or civilian.
But it's like the house is on the market for well over $1 million. Yeah. And so we were like, all right, we got to go see this. It's like, it's similar to our house. And we're walking, and it's like, how? And it will sell.
Yeah. It's crazy.
And so her and I have been talking for a while. Is like, we should do this.
You should.
We should renovate.
Husband and wife.
We should renovate one of these 3 families and prove that our concept works.
Dude, that's the only reason why I do specs.
Right.
I don't know if you could do it, though.
So we explored one.
This goes back to, like, the conversation you had with Spencer, like that point of no return.
Right.
When people don't care. I don't know if you can shut that off.
And so we explored one. We put an offer on one. They declined. But I was like, you know what? Let's do the math. Let's figure this out.
Do you know who I am?
What? Oh, yeah. So I was like, we need, Meg, we need investors. So we talked to the investors. We need a bank. We talked to the bank. We do all the math out. We're like, worst case scenario, this is what they'll sell for. This is how much money that it will cost to build. And it was like 7% profit. And the investors.
And the only way to increase that It's to lower your construction costs.
Right. And the investors were like, it has to, you have to show 20% guaranteed or we're not interested.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, let me.
So the only way you squeeze it
is construction costs.
Yes.
Right. And so we kept working on this to a point where like, got it. We were at 21%. We'll make that. Investors line it up. All right, this is what our offer will be. And I stopped and I was like, this isn't our product.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing this is doing is getting us into the market of buying and flipping and renovating and flipping with a product that isn't what we're trying to showcase or promote. We want to come in.
Okay, so it's a product that's diluted so far from NS Builders.
Right.
That you couldn't put your cabinetry in.
Right. So, so I sit down and I have a good friend of mine who helps me with this stuff and understands it. And I'm like, well, possibly I could sell at a higher price per square foot, right? And he's like, yeah, yeah.
But no one is going to take that risk unless you have.
No one's going to invest that
track
risk.
record. Yep.
Realistically, yeah, we probably would be able to. With the way we can market and all of that, we can probably get a much higher price point, but it's not proven. And that's like our biggest holdup now is that, that I'm guessing that a lot of these guys, and I don't know, I don't have a ton of people developing, but probably get in certain similar circumstances where it's when they are driven by an investor. John, you might know better than I, is that you are pulling these construction costs to make sure that you're getting the money to fund the project and then completing the project to a lesser scale than you had originally intended.
It's tough, I think.
But if you're self-funded,
then all the risk is on you.
Yeah, but I'm a firm believer that if you're putting out a product onto the market that's different than what's on there or better than what's on there, that you're going to be able to sell for a higher cost per square foot.
Agreed.
You just have to find the right buyer. You may have to hold on to it a little bit longer, but you have to find the right buyer. But there will be somebody willing to pay that price.
100% agree.
Yep.
But the problem is that your key to that is being self-funded.
Exactly.
But I think the other.
But,
okay.
But if you get to the point where you're able to do that, you would be able to build, not necessarily to the level that a customer may be willing to pay you to build to, but you could put something on the market that's much nicer than 90% of the stuff that's out there as a quote unquote flip, and it will sell. So and you'll get a lot more for it. It's just that funding is going to be your biggest issue.
Right. So the question is, do we take the opportunity now to put a couple products on the market that don't hit our quality to essentially be able to self-fund a project in the future by basically banking any profit that we can by dumbing down the construction to ultimately get to the goal of self-funding so we can then produce a higher quality, which that goes against everything that I teach in the company, is that we focus on quality first.
Well, I think we're using all the wrong terms. I think the quality will still be there. It's just you have to dilute it enough, meaning you have to not put in as many details and it's like we talk about the good, better, best. Right now you're in the best plus. You can still do a good product that has all the same characteristics and details, just with different materials. That's the beauty of being a craftsman. It's just you have to give someone almost a base model, and then also be able to give them the opportunity to upgrade in these areas that you really want them to, but you're not putting you or your investors at risk on those upgrades. It's like someone says, hey, we're going to buy this property. And then the crazy thing is, yeah, we should do a pool house, all this stuff. It's like, whoa, let's do a concept with the house, pool, and pool house, and give someone the opportunity, if they buy this, to put that in, but not be at risk for the 270 and that whole program will have. So I think it's there's two things here. I think you could absolutely do it today. It's finding a property, doing the paperwork and all the numbers on it, having that, and then putting a design together. It's called a ghost design. Put a ghost design together and then have a realtor market that ghost design. That way, no one's at risk. And then if you get someone to pre-buy it based on that, then you have no risk. and you have a model specification. That's why the spec home comes from, is you're building off a specification, and being able to know how you can execute that. That's the heart. I think that's what's holding this process up, is that it's a lot of unknowns and a lot of promises that you're going to make to yourself, to investors, that you then have to then cash out. And that's I don't know if I would have done it as easy if I hadn't built 27 homes within that program before I started Vintage. To do it and know it, like we took one coming on. I can't go over the numbers because it's going to be on the market, but it's a smaller lot and the lots are going for more money. And then you have to then back into a number, and you're like, "Hey, this is the number."
When you say back into the number, because there's investors involved, right?
Well, no, you have a purchase price for the land, and you can have and then a sale price for the house,
right?
Regardless of whose money it is.
Sure.
So then you can only get so much money for that lot.
Yep.
You have to spend so much for the lot. You can only get so much for the final.
Who's
product.
in charge of the lot? You as a builder?
Someone came to me for this lot. So regardless, but the market. Let's just take people out of the equation. The market itself. Yeah. A lot's going to go that's small for maybe 830 to 11. Okay? So it depends on what you get that for. If you get it for the low end, it's great. But the sale price doesn't change for that for the most part. Yeah, I'd love to say I could get the high end of the market. It's a $100,000 swing. But the reality is those two numbers don't change, so you have to build within this number. So all lots just in general have gone up because everyone's developing. Everyone with a pickup truck, mortgage broker, anybody, everyone's had stock raised 30%, so they have money to play with. So everyone wants to get into that and dabble in it because it's different.
The issue is the investors also don't necessarily, like, at the end of the day, they're numbers, and they don't care whether you're putting your spin on it or that spin isn't there if the numbers are there.
Well,
you're not going to sell them on that romantic aspect of, hey, I could make it my own, or we could make it this much better. If you're like, hey, I could make this much more money.
But I do say to that is that my romantic part of me says, yes, I have done that, because anyone can make money. It's making money and being proud of the product is what we try and do. And then if you can do that in the same area, then you've created a brand that people want that product. We get calls from other realtors saying, do you have any inventory for a lot? And now I don't. But the word's gotten out that what we do, whether you want to call it overbuilding or whatever, people want that product. They see the difference. So yeah, to Tyler, I think investors, people can look at something in the future after you've had a track record, and they can see less risk involved with you.
Yeah, that's basically it. There's less risk involved there.
Yeah.
That's also working against me, being that this is our first.
But dude, you got to come up with the numbers and design.
Right.
If you could make those men or women the same amount of money on something that they put less time or investment in, they do that all day rather than like John selling John's product.
Right. True.
Yeah, it's a matter of, you're exactly right. If as long as their 20% doesn't change, you can put as much money as you want into it. Yeah. As long as they're walking away with that.
But creating a nicer product that's not going to sit on the market that people want, there is less risk involved with that for them.
Yeah, going back to you, Nick, is that I don't know if you have your back's up against the wall. I think if you haven't done one before, you have to come in with more data.
Yeah,
like this design or
that's why we continue to go down the road of figuring it out. Because at that point we threw an offer in there that was more than fair and probably more money than it will end up selling at. But we knew that we would, if they accepted, we were locked in and we were going to make that work no matter what. Yeah. And we would have had to make the construction costs work, and we were there.
It's like every job.
But when it was a no, we still went down that path, and the friend of mine, him and I chatted. It's like, if anything, this is a perfect opportunity to learn from it. Like what this would have taken to be successful, because maybe it comes back online in a month, 2 months, and what does that mean? Have we done our due diligence where we understand what can be built there?
Yeah, I did that before I even left. I was like, I had Matt do a couple renderings for these lots that I was like, this would be a great lot. I could see a family living here. I could see one of our products being there. Mm-hmm. Let's do that. Instead of them marketing land, they can market this build as a package.
Yeah.
Just to kind of shake the cage.
No, that's what I love about, John, to you, is the fact that you are doing it in this spec market and you're building a brand with it and proving, like you say it all the time. It's like you drive around and see all these other specs and there's no finesse with it. There's nothing to it. It's just no personality, where you're continuing to do it. And I know that there are, like, you can't pull all the strings. You have a number that you have to hit, and that's you're controlling that all the way through, and you've been successful in doing that. And in a lot of ways, that's what gets me the most excited about doing it on my own, is that you've figured out that formula, and now that's gotten you to doing more custom. Where we've been all custom, and now it's like, how do we take what we've done in the custom world and then apply it to, I'm looking at it as urban and like multifamily and things like that. I would love to build these high-end luxury multifamily where they sell at a higher price point, because there's a market out there that wants an actual luxury apartment or an actual luxury condo, not a marketed luxury piece of crap.
Yeah, the word luxury.
Right.
Or the word custom.
And I've referenced him before, but McKim from Australia and Melbourne, that's exactly what he's doing. He's built custom homes, and someone came to him and said we should build a multifamily, and he built a multifamily. We have to get him on the podcast, but
we should go there.
I looked up flights today, just out of pure curiosity. I looked up flights. They're not bad.
His not bad.
His not
they
bad.
weren't bad. Well, I got points. So,
but what's not bad to you?
It was like $1,300 round trip.
Yeah,
that's not bad.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So
that's normal person, not bad.
Yeah. I thought for sure you'd say like $3,000 or more.
No, it wasn't.
Those would be like 6.
No, it was really reasonable. But he, there's a story, and I've watched on his website. There's a video, but in that video, and again, we don't know the success of it or anything, but in the video, he talks about how they had this lot, and it was basically all the data said you had to build 24 homes to be profitable on it. He decided to build 8, and a third of the amount of homes, and he built them to a level of standard that is just like beyond anything. And they were considered apartments, which confused me at first. But if you look up the definition, apartments, that doesn't mean rental. I thought, but it just means
it's Australia.
It's I forget the word, but like basically a group of homes in one building
cluster. And
so essentially they were condos, but they're amazing, like absolutely stunning homes. And now they're doing more multifamily. And that's what really, got me excited, is that that's exactly what I want to do. Is I want to take a product that doesn't exist and build it. But I think you're right. I don't have my back up against the wall. I just need to prove the numbers, and whether that's proving the numbers that I can sell them at a higher price point, or proving the numbers that I can give them a base model and grow from there.
Is it weird for you to not casually go into something? Like
yes.
we've always talked about it being like, hey, I'm always the numbers and the plan and all that.
It's very.
And you're like, no, I'm just gonna roll with it, and
that's why I have that. That's why
because it's his own money.
No, it's not. It's not even that. It's because it's not my money. It's someone else's.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And it's I keep saying my friend, but my buddy. That's who he says that too. He's like, you can't be casual about this stuff. You have to do the work, and you have to outline how this works on paper for anyone to be part of it. Tyler, if we can self-fund, dude, I got an idea. Let's make the Modern Craftsman development.
Dude, hey,
if anyone is listening, is looking to make a little less money on a development project, where you're getting.
But like, no, for all like that whole thing about like, Norton Commons, Jason at Artisan, his development, Seaside down in Florida.
Yeah.
Brett Hull. That is 100%. If I were to say, like, we asked the question on the podcast months ago, whatever, like what the future holds for us, and I answered it completely wrong, like I do everything, and I was like, hey, in my head, I want to build a neighborhood.
Yeah,
100% a neighborhood. So right now there's like 91 acres for sale in my hometown, and I was having a conversation this weekend with a guy who had a startup that went phenomenal, and I was just looking to spend money.
So in that situation, are you mapping out what you do with all 91 acres, or are you basically having a conversation that no matter what this is, we can make money?
No, it's I wanna test the waters of people's interest. You get me? I think having that conversation over and over again to field. So before I get to a meeting with investors, I would want to have this kind of casual conversation between people in town, between town council, and just hear the blowback. Like people are always going to be negative for an idea.
Oh yeah, I mean,
everyone
in the city, it's crazy.
Everyone wants to knock you down. I'm like, I want to hear all that. I don't want to be defensive. I want to hear all that, so that can then shape the multiple conversations I'm going to have on if this is going to be feasible or not. Like all those different lanes I need to go down. So I mean, to me, it seems crazy. I think the purchase price is $11 million. And I'm like, all right, so I haven't even done the math on everything. And
that's like a couple flights to Australia. That's not
just a few.
That's not bad.
But like that would be my dream, like my romantic like scratch ticket mind where I'm like spending money and trying to do it. I'm like, I get to see like Greek revivals, like this adorable neighborhood that kind of rolls where people are walking around, you know, on sidewalks or playing street hockey in the street, stuff that you don't see anymore because you don't see garages, like all those things that need to be fixed that no one's going to, there's only a handful of developments that are doing that.
Do you also see that on the market and wonder why someone else hasn't bought it?
Well, I think it's harder to do. I think, I have thought that end of it where it's more architectural. It's more upfront stuff where people just want to go and, hey, what can I
don't think anyone builds that way now, especially not from a development, even if it's a small scale development perspective.
And even what we're doing now for our specs, like I was talking to this guy that did the spec down the Cape. I'm going to say down the Cape, but it's not. And like him and I would, like, it was really cool to talk with him. Doesn't know about the podcast, doesn't know about social media, any of that stuff. And he's a developer just like me, but he wears the bags. So he did all the interior trim in there, and I was like, bro, I love it. I'm like, so it's your idea that came up. So he does all his double doors with magnets. Yep. Instead of like, and I'm like, dude, it's your idea. He goes, yeah. He goes, I did a remodel of this old house, and it was all replacement. Didn't replace the windows, but had to replace the weights. So he goes, I put all the trim up with magnets, like so he could still access the weight pockets. So he goes, so I bought all these magnets. And then I had extra, didn't know what to do with them. So he starts doing all his double doors with the magnets. And I'm like, dude, that was genius. Him and I hit it off like within a second. And we were talking about like that, you know, point of no return and like how do you do the investments and how do you deal with the numbers? And it's funny, he's like, I'm tired. And I was like, he's like, you got lots of energy. And I was like, God, I don't think we're that much different in age. Like, but it was interesting to hear his take on the whole spec thing and how you get squeezed, and he's like, I can only do so much, like, so all the tile and all the bathrooms are the same, like throughout the whole house. So I can walk through that house and go, I know what you did here. I know what your formula was. Like the kitchen, I honestly walked that house and go, this is how I would have to downgrade my product. Like I'd have to go with a box cabinet, you know, a box cabinet that comes from wherever manufacturer, not something that's custom. You'd have to deal with those colors, and you have less customization in the house. Like it's stock certain things for that price point of a house, which is much higher than we sell houses for. I would have done more. And it's just like, I don't know how to find that middle ground. So him and I were talking about it, and it's pretty cool that he gets to see us go in there and then put the custom flair on it. Like there's a whole tennis court we're removing a whole finished tennis court, and then putting in a different program with like party barn, pool, grass, little mini Fenway Park. It's gonna be cool, but I don't know. You asked me, what did you ask me?
I forget. I'm just sitting here intently listening.
Well, it's like that, like doing that development. Like in my eyes, it's.
Did anyway? Like why didn't someone else do it? Is what my question
it's
was.
Because of like. Most people go online, spend $3,000 for a set of drawings, and then they'll duplicate that over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And like he was saying, this developer today was like, hey, I want to put a clause in that we won't use this paint scheme again. We won't use this painted cabinet again. And I'm like, dude, we're doing that where we're not doing the same house again. Mm-hmm. Like I just got asked, we just got a new property in Wellesley, and the realtor's like, just put this house on there. And I'm like, no.
Right.
Someone thinks they got something. They're under the impression that they bought a custom home from us. And that's what I want them to have. I don't want them to pull down, take 3 rights off of the main road and go, dude, that's my house.
Right.
Imagine having that feeling. I mean, I'm sure people do, but it's like not when they bought something that was so special.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, we'll spend a couple bucks and do. So we do it differently already, Tyler. And probably to like the bag of money is the same size for me that it is for somebody else. I'm taking $7,000 and putting into architecture that makes it special, where I think it's going to reap benefit at the end.
Right.
And that's, people have faith in us.
But that comes out of your bucket, not the investment.
That could have been $5,000 for me.
Right.
100% right.
Yeah.
So I battle with that all the time. It's just, what do I have to put in? I literally stare. I'll stand in a room and stare. Like, there's a photo of the staircase we're doing at Southgate, Suffolk. And I'm like, do I need to be doing this? Does it need to be this?
You posted it. Didn't you just post that?
Yeah, like on a story or something. I'm like, dude, why? I'm yelling at myself inside. I'm like, why are we doing this? Why? Why do you need to do this? No one knows the difference.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and I'm sitting there having a conversation going, I don't know why. I think it just needs to be done.
No, I envy you in a lot of ways in that side, because it's something that Meg and I want to do, and I think it would be really cool to put our spin on a different housing market and being able to offer our product to someone that can buy it, not.
Yeah, I think if you go to developers and investors and all that, no one's going to understand the market that you see in your head.
Right.
Like, you literally have to spell it out. No, you have to spell it out.
Well, yeah.
You will prove it. It's just having someone drink the Kool-Aid. You've been able to do that for remodels and new constructions for the stuff you've done. It's just having this new market you got to break into, and it not be something that you're accustomed to.
Yeah.
Like, everything you have has to be dummied down or diluted, but it still has to be your look.
Right.
Instead of that being a solid oak door, we're looking at your new office, it's got to be a veneer. But you can do that. You have, out of all the people that are thinking about it.
And going back to a previous episode, John, I know you gotta bounce out of here in a second, but a previous episode, that's why I'm really interested in all this pre-construction, pre-planning, and I'm gonna leave you on a great note, panelization. But all of these
hey, if
technologically,
that gets you closer to that dream, then you got to do it.
I just think the consideration for the way we build is will give us the ability to cut our construction cost. Maybe I'm wrong, but that's where my head is at. Is that reconsidering the way we build and the way stuff is manufactured will allow us to hone in our construction costs a lot more.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I think if it makes it more feasible to do that, it's the way to go. Yeah. And you're not cutting corners, but you've already had that design done. There's a place for that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there'll be a place for NS builders.
Sure.
That renovation you do, that'll be panelization. But if it means that you're able to make this free family happen,
right,
dude, then do it. I know I sound like I'm a hypocrite, but it works.
I gotta prove it. I see your GPS. You're right on time. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I gotta get dressed, so it's 7:40.
Let's wrap up.
All right,
guys. We appreciate you listening. Short one today, but good conversation. And I know Mike Riley from Cape Cod Panel. Speaking of panelization, we're gonna get him on, and we have a handful of other guests lined up in the next couple weeks. So as always, stay tuned. We really appreciate. Oh, you want to do a couple of reviews?
I don't want to do the 3-star one.
Why not? Is it me?
Because it's going to be another 45-minute conversation because I have thoughts on it.
Oh. So am I reading it or not?
You can do the top one.
Okay. We'll come back to the other one.
We'll start the next podcast with the other one.
Love the show and believe it's super important you guys continue to run with another 100 episodes. The insight and knowledge as well as trials and tribulations you share help me remember that everyone is struggling. Nick talking about the need for efficiency in building is so important, and I believe not talked about enough. Here's the difference between where you guys work at and the rest of the building that's happening. You're all high-level craftsmen who continue to train and work with others of the same mindset. However, most crews working out there are just working for a paycheck and not concerned about craftsmanship or pride. We've all heard the saying, you can't see it from my house and on a job site with a hack. So I think we read this one.
Did we?
Yeah.
I know. I don't know if I've heard it.
Oh, yeah. That one's from January. Yeah, that one's... Sorry.
That's the last one that came up on me.
The 3-star is the newer one.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, let's hear it.
All right, let's go.
Yeah.
D. Rudy. The early episodes were great when they focus on people's work, but now it's turned into an interrogation of contractors. All 3 hosts do a great job, and I'm sure they're all nice guys, but have no understanding of the majority of the market in America. Would be awesome if they talk to a budget builder who does great work and actually listen to what they have to say about doing a good job with a tight budget without trying to rip the contractor's business apart. Not everyone can afford $500,000 on a kitchen remodel.
Really?
D. Rudy, I would disagree with it, but I think we need to have a conversation next. You know what? Next episode, we're going to open up with this.
You know what's funny?
Let's dig into it.
Because, this gave me an epiphany for another podcast.
Okay. Let's come back to this next episode.
Let's do it.
All right. As always, guys, appreciate you listening. And Rudy, we'll talk to you next week.